The bloodiest years of World War II. As Europe trembles under the overwhelming power of the Nazi war machine, a discovery is made in the dark corridors of Berlin that could change world history forever. Heinrich Himmler, the shadowy leader of the SS, holds in his hands a report that could decide the fate of the war. This is no ordinary document. It contains mind-blowing information filtered through ancient texts and the secrets of lost civilizations. Himmler calls the Führer's private line. His voice trembles with undisguised excitement. "We have finally found it. The dream of the Reich of 1,000 years is about to come true." Research conducted in deep secrecy points to the existence of a technology capable of overturning all the laws of physics known to man. If this information is true, Nazi Germany will rule the skies and the world will never bow down. But did they really succeed? Or are these secrets just legends hidden in the dusty pages of history? Welcome to Mirror of Babylon. As Hitler's Nazi party rose in Germany, it did so not only with military might, but also with an ideology that captured minds. The myth of Aryan supremacy was the cornerstone of this propaganda. However, the architect behind this grand illusion was Heinrich Himmler, one of the most dangerous men at the head of the SS. He was a master of manipulation who twisted history to present his version to his people. One of his greatest weapons was the Roman historian Tacitus's Germania. Himmler turned this work into a sacred text and imposed it on the German people. But there was a problem. Germania was not, as Himmler claimed, a book that glorified the Germanic people. Yes, Tacitus spoke of their warrior spirit and close family ties, but he also spoke of their excessive alcohol consumption and barbaric lifestyles. The Romans even did not hesitate to compare the Germans to wild animals, but the public was never allowed to know the truth. The original text of Germania was kept in Himmler's vaults, and SS members had to read only Himmler's own interpretation. Those who knew the truth were silenced, because if the public read the original text, the whole spell would be broken. But Himmler's obsessions were not limited to propaganda. He was an obsessive follower of esoteric knowledge and ancient powers lost throughout history. Using the unlimited resources under the control of the SS, he embarked on mysterious quests all over the world. He was most intrigued by Tibet and India, for these lands possessed ancient knowledge of the Vimanas, the mysterious flying machines described in ancient legends. Himmler carefully studied the sacred texts and epics and realized these legends might not be just myths. The flying machines said to belong to the gods were actually based on advanced technology. And if German scientists could rediscover this lost knowledge, they could change the fate not only of war, but of all mankind. Himmler pursued this technology, and that's when one of history's darkest secrets was revealed. Because Nazi Germany did indeed develop this technology. The ancient Indian texts, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Vedas, and the Upanishads, tell us not only divine stories, they also tell us about extraordinary tools that transcend the limits of science and engineering. Vimanas. The Vimana, which means made to measure in Sanskrit, is described not only as a means of transportation, but also as a divine technology connecting the heavens and the earth. One of these mysterious vehicles appears in the Ramayana epic as the Pushpaka Vimana. According to the legend, this gold-plated Vimana, which emitted a dazzling light, could quickly change direction according to its owner's wishes and reach its destination as fast as the wind. Its interior could change shape according to its occupants and could carry more than one passenger. The epic tells of Ravana gliding over Lanka in this extraordinary vehicle. Ravana, king of the skies, he is so sublime. His Vimana flies shining, powerful and mighty, rivaling the sun, determined to return on top of Lanka. But these narratives are not limited to the Ramayana. In the Mahabharata, the warrior Arjuna is summoned on a celestial mission and ascends to heaven on Indra's Vimana. On this journey, Arjuna meets the gods, learns powerful weapons and battle tactics from them, and returns to Earth. So it is not just a journey, but an education given by the gods. This story has surprising similarities with the ascension of Moses, Ezekiel, Enoch. Arjuna's chariot ascends to heaven. Krishna fills his wound with hope beside him. On the battlefield, his tires clank. Friends and enemies watch what comes from the sky. But were the Vimanas just a means of transportation? Hindu mythology tells us that each god had his own Vimanas. For example, Krishna's Vimana, Sudarshana, was specially designed for wars. It could have been a war machine used as part of celestial battles. Could these accounts be just myths? Or did the ancient world witness advanced technology soaring through the skies? Given the excavations carried out by Nazi Germany's SS troops, especially in Tibet and India, it is easy to understand why Himmler pursued these legends. If what you have read so far has surprised you, the next information will shock you to the core. Unlike other Vimanas, the Asura Vimanas of ancient Indian texts are described as flying war machines used by demons. But beware, these descriptions are not metaphors. On the contrary, the epics describe these beings as a flesh and blood race. But don't these narratives remind you of something else? The jinn mentioned in the Quran, in their attempts to ascend into the sky, only to be thwarted by angels? Yes, the holy books also talk about celestial battles, flying vehicles, and divine technologies. The Quran clearly states that the jinn tried to ascend to the sky and gain knowledge, but the angels prevented them with powerful weapons. Moreover, these narratives reappear in the holy books exactly 1,500 years after the Mahabharata epic. But the most striking part doesn't end there. Yantra Purushas. If you have never heard this word before, know this. It directly translates to machine men. Ancient texts describe some Vimanas as being able to move on their own, even having autonomous control systems. Modern researchers think that these descriptions could be robots or AI-controlled vehicles. Even today, the Indian Council of Scientific and Industrial Research continues to investigate how realistic this information is. But one of the most striking accounts is the Tripura Vimana in the Bhagavata Purana texts. But this is no ordinary Vimana. Tripura is a flying city floating in the sky. According to ancient narratives, this gigantic structure was ruled by asuras, demons, and caused great chaos by attacking the cities of the gods. Finally, God Shiva destroyed this flying city by firing an enormous arrow in which he gathered the energy of the universe. Pay attention to the descriptions. A gigantic explosion. The city is completely destroyed. Modern scientists see this event as a description of an atomic bomb explosion, which is astonishingly similar. Was there really an ancient technology known to different civilizations throughout history? It was precisely this question that prompted the Ahnenerbe Institute, the secret research team of the Nazis. Heinrich Himmler, in pursuit of these ancient accounts, set up a research network stretching from Tibet to India with a special team from the SS Ahnenerbe, a society whose very name is shrouded in mystery and darkness. This organization, which means heritage of the ancestors, was founded by Heinrich Himmler within the SS and was shaped by much deeper and more mysterious aims. Officially, the Ahnenerbe's mission was to indoctrinate the German people with superior race propaganda and to distort history to provide evidence in support of Nazi ideology. But this was only the surface. The real and much darker dimension was to uncover the secrets of legends, myths, and ancient civilizations. The Ahnenerbe was no ordinary research unit of Nazi Germany. On the contrary, it was a group that traced mystical and occult elements around the world, working to collect unknown and forbidden information. In their eyes, history was studied not only to learn about the past, but also to shape the future. The Seal of Solomon, the sacred spear of Longinus, the legendary cities of Agartha and Shambhala, even ancient technologies of warfare. The Ahnenerbe's interests were so vast as to defy the imagination. Under Himmler's orders, the research conducted by this team was aimed at building the mystical and esoteric heritage of the thousand-year-old German Empire. Ancient manuscripts, sacred objects, and lost knowledge were stored in secret libraries and repositories in the captured territories. But one of the most interesting claims is that among the substances Ahnenerbe was after was a mysterious liquid called red mercury. Mentioned in Sanskrit manuscripts in ancient libraries in Tibet, this substance was referred to as the liquid of the gods. Mercury has always been considered a mystical metal in human history. Ancient civilizations regarded it not only as an element, but as a substance that held great secrets and, according to some, was even used by the gods. The most famous of these stories belong to the first emperor of China, Qi Shi Huang. In pursuit of immortality, the emperor, according to legend, began drinking liquid mercury every day. But the experiment ended up destroying his brain and nervous system, driving him mad and leading to his painful death. What's more, rivers of mercury are said to flow even in his grave. On the surface, this story may seem like a simple mistake that led to a tragic end. But this was a leader of extraordinary intelligence and strategy who united China and built a huge empire. It makes little sense that such a powerful figure would poison himself for the sake of a completely unfounded belief. Perhaps there was a secret he knew that was lost to time. It was precisely this kind of ancient knowledge that Ananarba was after. The interesting point is, why was the Chinese emperor so obsessed with Mercury in particular and its connection to the gods? Now, the belief in celestial gods is not a concept unique to Mesopotamia. We see a similar belief in almost all ancient cultures around the world. Beings from the heavens, beings with extraordinary abilities. And this motif also appears in ancient China. For example, in Chinese mythology, there are celestial figures such as Fuxi, the god of wisdom and invention, and Shennong, who taught people agriculture and farming. These beings, who are described as demigods, are very similar to divine figures in other ancient civilizations. But the real mystery is that mercury is a sacred and mysterious substance in all of these ancient civilizations. Chinese, Indian, and South American civilizations attach great importance to this metal, but we don't know exactly why. For example, in Teotihuacan, Mexico, mercury channels were discovered in the lower layers of the Pyramid of the Sun. In Hindu mythology, mercury is directly associated with Shiva, and there are texts about its use in healing rituals and alchemy to make elixirs of immortality. It seems that the Emperor of China also had access to such information and unconsciously consumed mercury, ascribing a sacred meaning to it. As a result, perhaps in trying to unlock a secret, he caused his own death. But Himmler took a very different path. He now had two big pieces of information. First, the Vimanas, the flying objects that allowed the gods to travel through the sky. The second was a mysterious substance, mercury, or its more advanced form, red mercury, which gave the gods immortality and was associated with their technology, especially the workings of the Vimanas. And what did Himmler do with this information? I'll tell you. He designed a vehicle that defied the laws of physics of the time. In his 2000 book, The Truth About the Wunderwaffe, Polish journalist and author Igor Witkowski wrote about the Nazis' secret projects. According to Witkowski, SS leader Heinrich Himmler established a top-secret military base in the Wenceslas mines in southwestern Poland. At this base, an extraordinary device was built, inspired by the ancient texts of the East, Die Glocke, the bell. But Witkowski is not the only one to mention this enigmatic object. Investigative writer Nick Cook, in his book The Pursuit of Ground Zero, and Joseph Farrell, in his books The SS Bell Brotherhood and the Nazis' Incredible Travel Technology, also mention its features. According to them, the design of this bell-shaped device was based on ancient Vimanas. It was claimed to contain a mercury-based liquid that rotated at high speed, creating an electromagnetic field that could counteract gravity. It was even reported that advanced tests were conducted in a special facility called Henge, and that the bell was secured with chains to prevent it from flying away uncontrollably. But towards the end of the war, when the defeat of the Nazis became certain, these secret facilities were reportedly evacuated at great speed, and the fate of the projects became uncertain. According to some researchers, the technologies and scientific work were moved to secret bases in the Arctic. Others say they were hidden in secret laboratories built underground all over Europe. Considering that Nazi-era warehouses continue to be discovered in Europe even today, it is hard to say that these claims are completely fictitious. Of course, the information we have is not conclusive. Witkowski and the other authors say that their work is based on documents captured during the collapse of Nazi Germany, but never officially published. We therefore have no clear and proven information about Die Glocke. But one thing is certain, the Nazis were seriously interested in Eastern mythologies and ancient knowledge and conducted scientific research on them. But the story does not end there. the really interesting developments took place in America after the end of the war. As you know, after the war, leading scientists from Nazi Germany were taken to America, where they were allowed to continue their scientific work. This is the most striking part of this story. Were these extraordinary technologies allegedly developed by the Nazis actually used in some way in the post-war period? Or was all this knowledge later transferred to secret projects in America? Who was the chief architect of the Saturn V rockets that carried America's space program to the moon? Who was the leader of NASA at that time? Wernher von Braun. But the interesting thing is that von Braun was actually a scientist from Nazi Germany. And not only that, space medicine pioneer Hubertus Strughold, rocket scientist Kurt Debus, and many other Nazi scientists played a key role in the technological rise of post-war America. It was during this period that something very strange began to happen in America. UFO reports exploded. These unidentified flying objects, especially around Area 51 and Kirtland Air Base in Nevada, were thought to be alien technology for many years. However, there is an interesting detail here. The idea that the circular design of UFOs may actually have nothing to do with aliens is gaining strength. In the case of Paul Benowitz, when the UFO sightings around Kirtland Air Force Base were officially reported, the behind-the-scenes story emerged. Allegedly, these objects were actually experimental vehicles belonging to the U.S. Air Force. Similarly, these vehicles, which were frequently observed over Area 51, were making incredibly sharp maneuvers and almost subverting the laws of physics. And the most interesting part is that Bob Lazar, an engineer who claims to have worked at Area 51 in 1989, shared some extraordinary information about the secret projects carried out at the base. According to Lazar, anti-gravity tools were being developed here by reverse engineering. Moreover, the substance that made these tools work was an element that was unknown at the time. Element 115. Now make a note of this. Bob Lazar wrote about this element in 1989. It was only years later, in 2003, that the scientific world was actually able to synthesize element 115, called moscovium. Shouldn't we now ask the question, could what Bob Lazar told us years ago actually be true? Another historical connection comes into play here. Especially towards the end of World War II, the Germans made a great effort to develop Wunderwaffe, or miracle weapons that would change the course of the war. A team led by engineers like Rudolf Schriever was working on flying saucers within the German Aeronautical Office. Yes, you have not heard wrong. The Germans were indeed working on developing gravity-defying, disc-shaped vehicles at the time. What happened to these projects when the war ended? This is where Operation Paperclip comes in. When the Germans realized that the war was lost, many scientists and engineers were quickly transferred to America. Under this secret project called Operation Paperclip, the most distinguished minds of Nazi Germany were brought to America and played a major role in U.S. military, space, and scientific developments. To summarize, we have the following chain. Ancient texts, thousands of years old, speak of objects flying in the sky and traveling at incredible speeds. By studying these texts, the Nazis developed secret projects and work on anti-gravity technologies. After the war, these scientists were taken to America, and suddenly America's military and scientific breakthroughs gained momentum. In the same period, the incidence of UFO sightings and unidentified aircraft is increasing dramatically. Doesn't all this suggest that Nazi Germany was indeed developing something based on the knowledge contained in ancient texts, and that these technologies could have been transferred to America? Of course, such matters should be treated with skepticism. Many stories, such as Bob Lazar's claims, have been denied by the government. But ironically, after years of denying the existence of UFOs, America finally made UFO reports public and released images of objects that many military pilots could not identify. There is a remarkable detail here. The UFOs in the published images are usually cylindrical. But what about the circular ones? Do you think the Germans really succeeded in developing these flying objects mentioned in ancient texts? Do you think that after the fall of the Nazis, America reverse-engineered these vehicles and created the UFOs of today? Could there be a grain of truth in the claims of people like Bob Lazar that is being hidden from us? Whatever the outcome, what interests me is not whether the US is building UFOs or not. It is the fact that ancient texts thousands of years old contain information such as atomic bombs, flying aircrafts, interworld travel, races living in space, and even ancient wars. Today, both our technological knowledge and our imagination are vast. But in order for people thousands of years ago to be able to tell us about celestial battles that took place thousands of years before their time, I think someone has to actually witness these sights. And frankly, the possibility of such a thing excites me. I'm waiting for your comments to discuss the answers to these questions together. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. See you in the next video.